I think we're at kind of a critical point there where it'd be really great if Kevin and Shedeur could both understand the value the other guy has to them, right? Mm-hmm. I've given you why I think Shedeur should see value in Stefanski. Stefanski knows pocket quarterback play. So while Shedeur does not fit what he wants right now, if there's a guy who can help guide Shedeur there, hypothetically, Stefanski should have the knowledge to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And by the way, Kevin's got to ease up on some of the pocket stuff and give Shedeur opportunities to make plays off script a little bit more. That I also think is fair.
Well, and how do you get any relationship to be better, right? Both sides have to feel like, okay,
yes,
the person's actually, they're rooting for me now and they're actually benefiting me. Really, the benefiting me part of it is the key here, though, right? Once Shedeur has a couple moments, and maybe he's already had them in the past week and a half or so, but a couple moments where he's like, oh, wow, Stefanski, he really does want me to succeed, and not only that, like he's doing this, and this helped me. And why do you think Deshaun Watson and Shedeur's relationship seems like it's so good right now, to the point where Deshaun traveled to Las Vegas, the first road trip he was there this season, to go ahead and help him out on the sidelines? Clearly, he's shown him enough, like, oh, I trust you. You've helped me in this quarterback situation. I want you to be there. So, like, I just think it's going to take both sides to tango here, and I think maybe they're onto that. I don't know, but it didn't sound like it today.
At some point, we are going to need the quintessential quarterback head coach thing. We're going to need that. We're going to need McVay and Stafford. We're going to need Mahomes and Reed. If you're going to get where either of these guys want to get, at some point, until proven otherwise, you're the only hope the other guy has. Mm-hmm. But with Kevin, I think Shedeur gives him the chance to solidify the narrative that I think he wants so badly around the NFL, which is, I'm the guy that I'm the quarterback whisperer.
Right. This will give this to him, and he can talk about all the quarterbacks that didn't have this success previously, and we'll just kind of push those to the back burner. If he turns it, and they can even describe it this way, a 5th-round draft pick into, and I think this is what bothers Shedeur, by the way, the idea that Stefanski is going to retroactively just get a bunch of credit for all this. I think there's something about Shedeur that this will eat at his skin. Maybe it won't, and I'm just wrong there, because it'd eat at my skin. If I was Shedeur, it would bother me personally if all of a sudden Stefanski got a bunch of accolades and a bunch of, wow, look at what he did. But forget the accolades, forget the recognition. At some point, you guys just both need to save each other's jobs here.
Yeah, and I think with Shedeur, if you have success, someone's going to get credit for it. That's just the way the NFL works, right?
Yeah, you just have not care about it.
Pat Mahomes, singularly great. It'll be a huge thing that people talk about, the development of Pat Mahomes from, I think it was a 10th pick in the NFL draft, a guy who wasn't the first quarterback off the board, to the greatest quarterback of his generation. And it'll be disproportionate. I mean, how long did it take for us to figure out you take Tom Brady away from Bill Belichick, and that is just an average-ass, goofy-ass dude? It took us 5-6 years, right? Maybe Shedeur doesn't ever get that chance. Maybe he's just a great quarterback, and who cares? If you are great, someone's going to get the credit, so whoever gets the credit, it doesn't matter. But I do think, as it pertains to where they are, I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin was trying to do the I'm going to make you earn my love thing with Shedeur. I think Shedeur's used to just having a connection with everyone.
Yeah.
And that being an easy thing for him.
I could see that, yeah.
And I can understand Kevin saying, well, you're not my guy. And in the way I think I've seen Tito Francona do this, in the way that I think I've seen a lot of head coaches in this town do it, I think Kevin's done it more than we realize. It just wouldn't surprise me if Kevin's tact this whole time, fair or unfair, is, well, you're not my guy, and you got to earn being my guy, and that is something that Kevin sees psychologically as part of Shedeur's development.
It's something interesting to monitor, because I think for right now, I think you're right, but I do think in the next couple weeks, if Shedeur does play, really well against San Francisco, even, it could just be the San Francisco game. Guys like that you're describing with Stefanski, you go out there and ball, and you go out there and make them look good, and they're going to end up, they're going to be right there.
Yeah.
I think we'll watch this in real time. If it goes well, we'll watch in real time as all of a sudden Stefanski goes from this guy that seems a little bit distant from Shedeur and a little apprehensive around Shedeur to wanting to give him credit, etc., to then being the first one to do that.
Well, and this is where I do think it matters to the supporters. You guys got to give them the latitude to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know it's going to burn your ass when Kevin gets credit for it. Oh, well. Like, as long as it's working out between these two parties and we don't have to do coaching search radio and it's a real conversation, do they rock forward with Shedeur or do you still take a quarterback? Like, that's success from where you are, or where you certainly were at 2-8 when Shedeur took over.
Yeah, and I got to remind myself of that as well, because I inherently think to myself, Stefanski is almost along for the ride if this does go well. And listen, who cares? As long as they get the results, I don't care if Stefanski all of a sudden wants to treat Shedeur in a nice way and seems like they're buddy-buddy. But ultimately, I think what he's laying out right now is that relationship is... It's employee-employer, and that's an okay thing for right now.
Any starting quarterback in the NFL, you're looking for glimpses. No matter the situation around them, can they elevate the people around them? That is what was painfully not there with Dylan Gabriel, no matter what was around him, and what was pretty obvious in small spurts with Shedeur. And here's something that I do think they have got to stop being so predictable on what they're going to do on first and second down. They are not helping Quinshon Judkins be the best player he can. And listen, I'm sorry, screens are. I know we just had the Dylan Sampson play. You've got to figure out some stuff on first and second down, because there's no quarterback on the planet, even great quarterbacks, that consistently survive at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10.
It's not fair the amount of times, or not right the amount of times that I'm sitting on my couch and I'm doing the Tony Romo parlor trick when he first started going into the broadcasting booth where he's calling out the plays before they happened. The amount of times that I'm able to do that, you listening on your couch are able to do that for first and second down, little too much. A little too much for this Browns offense.
Yeah, and again, I
shouldn't be like, they're going to run here, and then they obviously run.
And they're going to run between the tackles,
and they're going to do this, and like it's not like I'm not a magician at this, right? Like it shouldn't be as obvious as they make it sometimes.
Albert Breer was on the station yesterday, and there was a slight corner turned when it came to Shedeur. Even it ended the same damn place that it always ends with Albert.
I think the discourse is still like that bleep crazy, but like I think you saw some things where you want to see more. Like sort of my thought coming out of it was, first of all, like that's a bad Raiders team and the defense carried you, and great. You know what I mean? Like I think that part of it shouldn't be forgotten. Myles Garrett was unbelievable, and just as far as Shedeur in a vacuum, like I think you saw a few things that like would make you want to get a second look and see it against a better opponent and give them another week in practice, and now you build and you see where you can go with it. I think I've said this a few times to you guys. I don't think the quarterback for next year is on the roster right now. And you have runway with Shedeur where he's under contract for another 3 years. So, I think you saw that he brought some juice, and, the throw to Bond was a highlight, of course. I think, like, it makes you want to see, like, a little bit more. So, we'll see a little bit more this week and see where it takes it.
So I think some Shedeur fans, I understand why some Shedeur fans might hear that clip and go, oh, you can't give our guy any credit. And my response would be, that's as much as the guys who have been staunchly anti-Shedeur are going to give you after one start.
Yeah, no, and that was fine. Listen, I really thought a couple things. I like that we started off talking about Ross a little bit, because Ross acted like he had the greatest time with Shedeur in that the pregame meeting that they had. Apparently, pregame meetings with Ross go a long way with Ross.
I think that sounds about right.
And so, he came out smelling like roses after that one. And you can hear the interview with us, obviously, Odyssey Rewind. But between
2:20 today, by the way.
Between that and then Albert, like that was it. That is as much as you're going to get from Albert right now. But Albert did this whole feature on Joel Bitonio, and Bitonio talking about Shedeur showing up at 7 o'clock in the morning to get all this extra work in. And I think it's funny and interesting how the people that then get around Shedeur and around the people around Shedeur on a consistent basis, they all start to become believers in certain facets in certain ways. Like Albert did some digging. That's why he had that whole story on the mmqb.com. He did some real digging, and the best he could find was the idea of, the man works really hard. Like Shedeur's really a really hard worker. He takes this serious. He's not a clown. He makes jokes, but he takes this serious. And so I think that two of the top people we have on the station as guests both spend significant time either with Shedeur or around people that spend a lot of time around Shedeur. And in the past week, they've all walked away really impressed.
Well, and those guys aren't going to go from, I don't think he's an NFL quarterback, or I think this is overblown, to he's the future overnight. And I think Shedeur fans have to understand there's a chance that some of those guys don't get there in the next 6 games, no matter how good it looks for Shedeur. But I do think this 49ers game represents an opportunity where, because they're a playoff caliber team, because they're one of the chosen franchises in the NFL, especially with Shanahan, but just in general over the last 50 years, the way they've been run, like this is an opportunity that if Shedeur continues to play reasonably well, that you're going to slowly but surely convert people over. And the same thing with Stefanski, by the way. It will not happen overnight. Unless Shedeur drops like 350 on San Fran and he's just one after another, great pass in the pocket. And yeah, I mean, this is a just runaway win. It's the Miami win, 2 times over.
Yeah.
Outside of that, you're going to win people over in the NFL. And that's a statement on how much Shedeur has to make up for whatever preconceived issues people have with them. People went really hard in the paint against Shedeur. They're not just going to flip the switch and be like, well, I was wrong, without significant evidence. And this San Fran game, it presents a little bit more evidence.
By the way, I think is totally fair. You know, like you shouldn't. If you believed one thing about Shedeur, one game against the Raiders shouldn't all of a sudden have you flipped in a completely different direction. Like, this should take time. This should be a building process. But the 49ers it's a great opportunity. Now, I don't know what the snow is going to be like in that game. It's supposed to be like 2 inches tonight. It's supposed to be a heavy snow day tonight, and then by Sunday it's supposed to be a really bad weather game. Don't love that development, but go out there and win.
Yeah, I just look at it's interesting. Like, I look at the Shedeur Stefanski stuff and the Shedeur, the Browns, the Shedeur and the detractor stuff is kind of an opportunity of at least that door's open now.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of look at the Shedeur and Stefanski thing as Kevin's chance to get what he got wrong with Baker right with another quarterback. And listen, they are 2 different quarterbacks. One guy was the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Another guy was thought to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick value that win the 5th round. So talent-wise, we're not talking about the exact same quarterback. However, I do think like Kevin struggled with Baker's immaturity. Kevin struggled with the fact that Baker was a leader unto himself and didn't just follow what Kevin said. He struggled with the fact that Baker didn't just want to play within a pre-scheduled offense or an on-time offense. He wanted to do things off schedule, right? Well, these are all the same conversations we're having with Shedeur, and honestly, even Shedeur's personality, which it's been interesting to watch people and, he's not serious enough, or he's not this enough, or he's not that enough. Those were the same damn things we said about Baker.
Right.
And so, like, to me, I look at Shedeur as some extension of where I think Kevin didn't help Baker be here long term, and say, okay, fix it. He's not your perfect quarterback. Who gives a rat's ass? You can win with this guy if you really put the work in and buy into him. That's what I think this San Francisco game also kind of affords you.
Yeah, I don't know what to do it one step at a time. Like, another thing Albert was getting on, though, and kind of in the lane that you're talking about, is he went down this whole track about basically how guys like Baker, but he mentioned Josh Allen, he mentioned Patrick Mahomes, he mentioned some of those type of players, and the third quarterback here was Joe Burrow, and he mentioned how like relatable they are, and just how they were just relatable humans, and that maybe Shedeur misses some of that with people because of his how he was grown up and the surroundings and everything like that. And I don't know how much of that is true, how much of that isn't true. But what I do know is that when you watched on Sunday, it felt like those players related to Shedeur in a big way.
Yeah.
It felt like they got it. And so, like, if you're just going to be blind to that and the idea, it's why I love that visual of Myles Garrett on the sidelines, just looking like, did I just see what I just saw? Like, stuff like that, it stays with guys. And it is that 7 a.m. workout that he has with all the offensive players that Joe Bitonio happened to be walking in on. Moments like that like, you might not seem the most relatable because you grew up, Dion being your dad, but you can do it in other ways. You can find inroads.
Well, and I think, like, kind of like Baker. When Baker came in, that was the right guy at the right time with the right attitude that fit this town. Shedeur isn't one for one the same guy that Baker is, but they represent that same spark. And for whatever reason, under Jimmy Haslam, those are the kind of guys that are going to elevate you, right? The guy who doesn't walk, talk, and act like the stereo. He doesn't do what Tom Brady did, where he just bored you to tears. He doesn't do what other great quarterbacks do, because that's just not who they are. That's not how they're wired. And unless you get that guy in the draft, and you're not in the position to do it right now, this is the kind of guy that I think does have a chance, because it's almost like all the crap that comes with being a Browns quarterback, he doesn't care about.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought you needed somebody different in order to turn this thing around with the Browns anyway, and that's why. But there's so many similarities. That's why every convo feels like there's something with Baker Mayfield that just looms, and it's not the idea that Baker was here and we went through 4 years with Baker. It's the idea that they carry a lot of the same traits. The two of them just do, and so like the parallels are there, and the idea that they are wired just a little bit different.